The January 17th meeting of the Eden Prairie City Council will now come to order. I'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Prior to the start of each City Council meeting, the first and third Tuesdays of the month, we offer an opportunity for citizens to address the Council on issues between 6:30 and about 6:55. These portions of the meeting are not televised or recorded, and if you wish to contact the City Manager's office at 949-8412 by noon of the day of the meeting, we can schedule you as a speaker. If we have time after the scheduled speakers have spoken, we will open up to members of the audience. Again, these portions are not recorded or televised, and if you have any questions about that portion of the meeting, please contact the City Manager's office. And again, we did have an open podium tonight and had it filled with speakers, so thank you. The first item under proclamations and presentations is an update from PROP. Is Ann Harnick? There she is. Thank you. You don't have to press any buttons.
Okay.
You can just talk.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Madam Mayor, council members. Appreciate the opportunity to share with you the work that PROP has done in the community of Eden Prairie. Thank you. And hopefully I will do the clicker right, otherwise you'll get to hear me and not see anything. We've been busy at PROP in the last year, as you can about imagine. There's our logo up there. And to start out with, just to let you know a little bit about the statistics on what PROP has done in 2011, you can see that we've served almost 1,100 households. That's family. A household can be a family of 3, a family of 1, a family of 8. 335 families that used our services were new, never using services ever before in their lives. And the greatest number I want you to pay attention to is about 50% of who we serve are youth, because we serve youth through our food shelf, through our homelessness prevention programs, and other specific programs geared toward youth. That's really important for us to be aware of. 10% of the individuals we've served are senior citizens, which has probably doubled in the last 5 years. 348 of the families we serve are single parent, so the majority are not single parent families. And ethnicity, I just think it's important to take a look at the ethnicity of who we serve, which is a good reflection of our community. And in the time that I've been with PROP, in nearly 4 years, there's been a significant change with an increase into the European American families served and a decrease in the Somali Americans served. And just to keep in mind that your neighbors, Chanhassen is also served by PROP, 116 families, so certainly the majority is served here in Eden Prairie. PROP has a new approach to services that is called a holistic approach. And what we've learned through providing social services to individuals and families, when you come in on a crisis, that might be your immediate and specific need. But what we've learned is that there's different areas throughout people's lives that aren't very strong. And when we don't have social connections, or don't have a faith connection, or child care support, or enough food or medical, or all those necessary items for every one of us to live a successful life, they might not, the success rate of regaining independence and self-sufficiency is going to be lower. So what we do is we provide resources, referrals, counseling, and support to help people strengthen all the domains in their lives so they can go forward and not depend on PROP ongoing. And through this holistic service delivery, we have food services, and the food services, of course, is the food shelf, which PROP is most known for. We also have a pantry area that is greatly supported by our local grocers, where we provide baked goods, breads, fresh produce, items that are donated by our groceries that families can utilize a pantry area once a week. Once a month is generally how often a family uses our food shelf, although more often when they first come into crisis. We also host a program called Mac and Naps, which provides federal food subsidy monthly to senior citizens and women with children with 5 years of age. We also partner with Eaton Corporation and United Methodist Church with a Fairfield Express program that is actually available to anyone who wants to purchase food at a lower cost. And we do that once a month to offer our clients an opportunity to save in their purchases. We provide financial assistance as well. Homelessness prevention, transportation assistance. Sometimes people who live on a very tight budget, they bust a tire goes flat, their spare is flat too, that can send them off their budget and get them in real trouble. So if we can help people fix that tire, give them some other resources, maybe a food order for a month or two, keep them on that self-sufficiency road, rather than the plummeting effects of something that's small to some of us. We provide case management, again, that counseling and support to help people that struggle a little more than others in reaching self-sufficiency goals. We provide counseling, workshops for our clients, mentoring. We have local business people who are now mentoring with our clients with financial issues and savings and how to approach some of the difficult situations like foreclosure. We provide child and youth services specific. Now, of course, children are served in all the above areas, but the child and youth services is a youth scholarship program for low-income, at-risk youth, so they can actively participate in positive activities. And of course, the school supply program partners with the community members to ensure all kids go to school with needed items. The holiday program is a feel-good program, but it never hurts a child to have a gift, to open a new coat, a book. In 2011, PROP provided 5,828 food orders. So as you can see, not all of our clients are coming to us every month. If we're serving over 1,000 clients, the average time that somebody's coming to us, I gotta keep doing this, don't I? No, okay. Is more 4 or 5 times a year. So people use us when they need us. The pantry visits, that's a weekly allowance, that's certainly much higher. Transportation, again, the units of service that we've provided is offering gas cards to people who are starting a new job, or again, bus passes for the same reason, or that car repair that could send them off their monthly budget. We prevent homelessness incredibly here in Eden Prairie. We provided 189 units of housing support. And what that means is that some families, because of their situations, may have received housing support for a couple of months to get them back into stability. Others maybe were put into a hotel for a short time before they had to make the decision to go to a shelter, because there isn't that in our community. 581 children received school supplies, and then again, that resources and referrals with that holistic approach, providing information and resources to empower people who are struggling to move forward on their journey to self-sufficiency. We also have a new room. It's called PROP's Employment Resource Room, and it's actually overseen by 2 volunteers right now. In 2011, with 2 volunteers providing services twice a week for about 2.5 hours, we serve 56 adults. Of those adults, 30 of them obtain jobs. And this is one-to-one support, helping the 60-year-old person who's been unemployed, who never had a resume, doesn't know what social media is, helping them navigate the new system and taking a look at their skill set and applying it to what's available. We worked very, very hard on helping folks move forward in their journey, and we hope to do much more in 2012. Keep forgetting to do this. PROP is able to provide this support due to the support of over 130 volunteers. 100 of those volunteers, of which we count on every week to ensure that we pick up the food at the grocers, we fill the food orders for the families, that we meet with the families every 3 months to check in on them, do some of the data entry for us, and other work that's really important to ensure our service delivery. We have 2 full-time and 4 part-time staff. We also have professional service volunteers that help us with some accounting and some marketing and specialty areas. The City of Eden Prairie is a partner that helps PROP provide the services that we do. Local faith communities, community members, local civic business, and community schools. PROP certainly appreciates the partnership with all of these supporters to ensure that we can help families who are struggling. And last, and not the most important, but something to make sure that you keep on your calendar, is that next Saturday, Saturday the 28th, is Super Bowl Saturday. And this is an opportunity for the community to come together and learn what it's like to be hungry in Eden Prairie. Those that come will get a beautifully made bowl from one of our students in local schools and learn what it's like that your meal is a bowl of soup, a piece of bread, and a glass of water or coffee. This is a great team building. It's a great awareness opportunity, and there might be some special bowls there made by some special friends that you know. So please keep that in mind as well as you're considering prep. I'd love to answer any questions if there are any.
And I have a question. Could you clarify what the difference is between a food order and a pantry visit?
Yes, the food order is a 5 to 7 day supply of food that generally clients use once a month as a supplement to the other resources we've given them to feed their families. The pantry area is mostly breads, fresh fruit, produce, different things that are given to us by the grocers that need to be gone by the end of the week. And so we encourage clients to come to that portion, which they get 1 or 2 grocery bags full weekly so that we don't have to throw it. But on Fridays, if there are still some of that bakery items left, then we have the chicken man who comes and takes it, feeds his chickens, and then gives us eggs later on. So we try to recycle all the way through.
Yeah, great. Thanks. Thank you. I'm glad you brought up the Super Bowl. That would be a fun event, too.
Great.
And I had to paint a bowl along with the mayor of Chanhassen, and they're doing a little contest. And whoever gets the most votes for their bowl wins, and the loser has to wear the other school's jersey to their next council meeting. So unless you want me in a Chanhassen Storm jersey, please vote for my bowl. And did a bowl, too, and there were some other people there.
It was quite an exciting event today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. As we all know, this is the week in which we celebrate Martin Luther King's birthday, and I'd like to, at this point, read a proclamation. Whereas the City of Eden Prairie's City Council and Human Rights and Diversity Commission sponsors the Human Rights Award program, recognizing those who work to create an inclusive community spirit through their actions, activities, and programs. And whereas the City of Eden Prairie recognizes that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had a dream and dedicated his life to helping freedom exist for all people through his commitment to human rights and his nonviolent philosophy. And whereas the City of Eden Prairie reaffirms its commitment to fostering diversity in our community through the Eden Prairie Manifesto, now therefore be it resolved that the City of Eden Prairie hereby proclaims 2012 as a year to celebrate human rights and diversity, and asks all residents to continue their commitment and concern for equal rights for all persons, to dedicate themselves to helping those who do not yet share in that freedom, and to join the City of Eden Prairie in recognizing and celebrating Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream. Signed by Nancy Tira-Lukens, Mayor, City of Eden Prairie. And at this point, I'd like to invite, we have a member from the Human Rights and Diversity Commission that wants to let us know about the opening of application process for the Human Rights Award. Pam, are you doing that? Okay, Pam Spera.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Council members. Thank you for the opportunity to make this announcement tonight. I also have Commissioner Rob Rosansky with me tonight, representing the Commission. The goal of the Human Rights Award is to recognize an Eden Prairie individual, nonprofit organization, business, or youth who has worked to create an inclusive community spirit through actions, activities, or programs. The timeline for the Human Rights Awards is as follows. We have our kickoff program, which will include a media release and updating the city's website with the program information and having the nomination forms available online. The nomination and selection process begins now. The nominations are taken until March 2nd, and then on March 8th, the commissioners will review all of the nominations and select the award recipients. The categories are an individual, nonprofit organization, business, and youth award. And in different years, we've had all of those, and in other years, we've only had one or two. The award presentation will take place at a City Council meeting in April. Thank you again very much for the opportunity to make the announcement.
Thank you for that reminder, Pam. David Lindahl is going to give us an update on the city's meet and greet program. David?
Good evening, Your Honor, members of the council. It's going to be very quick. I did include a memo in your packet, so you probably know what I'm going to tell you, but The program continues to go very well. We accomplished 21 meetings in 2011, primarily with business CEOs and owners throughout Eden Prairie. And that brings our grand total to 257 meetings that we've accomplished since 2002. So it's and it continues to be very well received. The mayor and city manager and I attend most of the meetings. Other council members do attend when they can. But the feedback we get is, I'd say, 99% very positive. Most businesses are very happy to be in Eden Prairie and like the location, like the quality of life, and so that's all good. Occasionally we get a complaint or two about a pothole or a traffic issue or taxes. It seems like the issue of taxes is something they feel like they just have to say when we walk in the door, almost with a chuckle, but obviously we're always doing what we can to keep the taxes low in Eden Prairie. And then I also wanted to mention that the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce also has a Grow Minnesota program, and it's very similar. They have it's a meet and greet program that's done throughout the state, and it's implemented primarily by local chambers. And so the Eden Prairie Chamber of Commerce also did 25 meet and greet meetings through the Grow Minnesota, and I was a part of, I think, about 10 of those meetings. So that's basically about it. The companies that we did meet with last year were listed on page 2 of the memo, and we've included a couple pictures of this memo. But with that, I would just stand for questions.
Any questions for Dave?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for update. I assume we have a master list of all of the companies?
We do.
Okay.
I'd like to see that sometime. I can provide it.
Yeah.
So.
And council members, if there are any companies that you're interested in visiting, let Dave know and he can schedule a visit.
Yeah, I mean, we have a pretty random approach to doing
Right.
it. I mean, we just, we see a sign on a building, and I do have a master list of businesses that I go through, but yeah, if you have a particular business that you want us to meet with, just let me know.
Okay.
So,
Thank you, David. The next item is a flag donation. We've received a nice donation, and our Director of Park and Recreation, Jay Lathammer, is going to talk about it. Jay?
Thank you, Mayor, council members. A few weeks ago, we received a package from Afghanistan, and inside the package was an American flag and also a certificate of authenticity and a letter from Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Cleveland. And Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Cleveland is a graduate of Eden Prairie High School, and she had in the past been to the Veterans Memorial at Purgatory Creek Park and was very moved by how well done that it was, and was hopeful that this flag donated by her to the city could be at some time flown at the Veterans Memorial. And so working with the committee that works on the Memorial Day celebration, they would actually like to raise it on Memorial Day and pay tribute to her service as well as recognize the donation of the flag. And so on her behalf, I would like to present the flag to the mayor and let the council know that it will be flown on Memorial Day of this coming year and raised in a ceremonial fashion.
Jay, I hope you send a nice letter of thanks to Sarah, and I'd love to write a note on it if it hasn't been done yet.
That's
Thank you.
That's
a great donation
ready to go
receive.
tomorrow. Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, the next item is the approval of the agenda and other items of business. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Move approval.
Second.
And I would like to move item 11, the domestic partnership registry, up right after consent. Are there any other changes to the agenda? Okay, all in favor of the agenda as amended?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the council workshop held on Tuesday, December 6th?
Move approval.
Second.
Any items to correct? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Is there a motion for approval of the minutes from the council meeting held the same date?
Move approval.
Second.
Any items to correct there? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Is there a motion for approval of the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
Any items to pull for discussion? Any questions? All in favor of those items?
Aye.
Motion passes. That brings us to item 11, which we've moved up, the second reading of an ordinance amending the City Code, Chapter 5, relating to adoption of a domestic partnership registry and a resolution approving summary publication. This is not a public hearing, but I would like to open it to public comment if there is a member of the audience or two that would like to address the council. We may limit, if there are too many people that want to speak, we may limit the amount of time that each individual can have, but I don't think that's going to be an issue tonight. Do we have a show of hands of anybody that wants to address the council at this time? Okay, I would like to point out that prior to the start of the council meeting during open podium, we did have a number of people address the council for and against the issue, and both sides brought up some very salient, thought-provoking points, and I really appreciate hearing from everybody that addressed the council prior to the start of the meeting, so thank you. Mr. Getchell.
Mayor, thank you. This is a second reading of an ordinance adopting a domestic partnership registry, the first reading of which occurred at the previous meeting on January 3rd. And as was mentioned at that time, this is an item that's been on the work plan and discussion from our Human Rights and Diversity Commission for quite some time as well. And they're here to answer any questions you have. I know at the last meeting they didn't have an opportunity to address you on the work they had done in the program. I know you've heard quite a bit at the open podium session, but if the chair of the commission had wanted to provide a brief update for you on the work before you take action on the second reading, that may be something worthwhile.
Pam, do you have anything to add?
Well, no, not since.
Okay. But you're here to respond to questions if we have any. Okay. Once again, prior to it being opened up for council discussion, is there anyone from the audience that wants to address the council? Okay, I don't see anybody. Okay. Councilmember Aho.
Okay, well, I've had a little bit of time to think about this since our last vote on this issue. And while some people may not think that the proposed ordinance is a big deal, I do believe that it's a very important issue and that it's a big change in the direction for our city. I want to review the aspects of this proposed ordinance in detail. The definition of this ordinance reads, provide a means by which unmarried committed couples who reside in Eden Prairie and who share a life and home together may document their relationship. Our society has chosen to honor those who are committed and those who get married and choose to just live together. This is an idea that has not outlived its usefulness. Marriage strengthens our society, and that's why we honor and give it benefits specific to marriage. If the people of Minnesota choose to redefine marriage in the election year, this year, that's really another matter, and that's really going to be addressed at the state level. Local city government has no business trying to define this without the vote of all residents. This ordinance undermines the foundation of our society being based on marriage and infers that any relationship is equal to marriage between one man and one woman. This proposed ordinance was put forward by our staff and a handful of people in our Human Rights and Diversity Commission. This is not something that the majority of residents in our city have asked for, and there certainly is no urgency to pass this ordinance tonight. Our residents expect us to focus on issues that we have responsibility for, like public safety, infrastructure, and parks, not on controversial social and political issues that we have no control over. One reason given at the last meeting for supporting this was that other cities are doing this. The fact is that 13 cities out of 853 cities in Minnesota have adopted this ordinance. That is 1.5%. That is hardly a reason to consider adopting that in our city. Furthermore, there are 87 counties in Minnesota, and none have domestic partnership registries, and the state of Minnesota does not have such a registry. Therefore, it is discriminatory towards married people. We don't have a registry for married people at the city level. I ask all of you here in the council to provide any real example of an issue that this ordinance solves that is not easily solved by other means already. I ask you, What is the real reason you are supporting this ordinance? We already have the Eden Prairie Manifesto, which states that we do not discriminate against anyone for their sexual preference and other reasons. The Eden Prairie Manifesto stands alone and is sufficient by itself. We do not need enhancement to that. We do not need an ordinance that provides that we prove not to discriminate against people. Secondly, the benefits listed in the ordinance reads, may assist people in receiving benefits such as bereavement leave, insurance benefits, club memberships, quotations, health club, community center, and family leave. I would like specific examples of any company or any organization that will give these benefits as a result of this ordinance that wouldn't already do so without this ordinance. I believe that any organization that is willing to provide and give benefits such as these for unmarried couples will do so without the need for this city to enact this ordinance. Staff reported that the city of Edina only has 9 couples that have chosen to register, so my question is, why are we wasting time on something that affects so few people? Our city attorney at the last meeting stated that the city of Eden Prairie cannot grant insurance benefits to domestic partners of city employees because it is against state law. Why are we doing something that potentially has ramifications against state law at a city level? Termination of domestic partnership states that domestic partnership registration terminates when the earliest of the following occurs. One of the parties dies, or number 2, 45 days after one partner sends the other partner written notice on a form provided by the city that he or she is terminating the partnership. Or B, files a notice of termination and an affidavit of service of the notice on the other partner with the city clerk. Since the city does not record births or deaths, how exactly are we as a city to administer this? When someone gets married, they have to apply for a license, and there's a 5-day waiting period. The license has to be performed by at a ceremony, a marriage ceremony, and the license has to be registered. Has to be witnessed by at least 2 people 16 years or older. Conversely, if they get divorced, they must file for a divorce and go through all of the legal steps. A domestic registry does not have any of these criteria or procedures and therefore has little credibility in my mind. This ordinance was written without input from the City Council and is problematic for several of the following reasons. It contains specific language that is contradicted by state law in terms of insurance benefits. If we as a city are prohibited by law, by state law, from offering insurance benefits to employees' partners who are not married, then how can we enact an ordinance that claims in writing as a specific benefit? Number 2, it contains specific language that states one benefit will be membership for the use of the community center. This was made without the consent or input of our Parks and Recreation Board. The Human Rights and Diversity Commission has absolutely no authority to grant benefits that this city has established for families regarding the use of our parks and extend it to anyone else. Why would we allow 2 divorced women who share responsibility for each children, in the mayor's example of last meeting, who are also free to date and remarry at some time, but yet we would not allow 2 roommates the same privilege who share a common address? This is discrimination. As for hospital rights or medical privacy laws, this registry has no impact on any hospital in this state, according to HIPAA laws. If someone wants a hospital visitation rights and other such rights, it is easily accomplished without a city-run domestic partner registry. People can sign an affidavit and have it notarized declaring their relationship or other means. No hospital is going to deny visitation rights to someone because they aren't registered as domestic partners in the city of Eden Prairie. Ultimately, there is no urgency here. The reason to enact this ordinance tonight is just not urgent, and there is just because a small group of people want to see this passed. I think that we really need to reevaluate this, and we need to take some time and look at this. The entire debate regarding partners and people in other types of relationships is being handled by our Court of Appeals from a case brought in Hennepin County and will also be on the ballot in 2012. I would like to make a motion tonight to table the second reading of this ordinance until these issues have been discussed at another council workshop. Our Parks and Recreation Board can weigh in on the community center issue. Our legal staff can review this so that the ordinance does not conflict with state law, and also to determine whether or not this ordinance opens the city up to any litigation, and also that the case in the Hennepin County has been ruled upon. So that's my motion.
Okay, that's a motion. Is there a second for that motion? Okay. Hearing none, the motion dies, but thank you. Councilmember Wickstrom.
The motion is dead? Is that right? Okay. Yes, I have a bit of a different perspective. Nearly 2 decades ago, the Eden Prairie City Council made a commitment to establish the Eden Prairie Manifesto. This document, based on the wise words of Mayor Gene Harris, has been a cornerstone for our community and has encouraged the very, very good work of our Human Rights and Diversity Commission. As I have stated before, the registry, the Domestic Partnership Registry, is a way for the City Council to not just talk the talk, but walk the walk. I would like to read a portion of the manifesto. I think the words speak for themselves. Representing all sectors of Eden Prairie, we publicly declare our intentions to continue the development of a multicultural community which will not tolerate acts of harassment and intolerance. 2, to establish, communicate, and encourage community standards that respect diversity. And 3, to promote acceptance and respect for individuals in an atmosphere of caring for others. In an atmosphere of caring for others. I support this registry. I think it's the right thing to do.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from council? I have one question for Mr. Rosso. Does this ordinance conflict with state law? I mean, does the state have any laws on ordinances? I mean, any laws on registries?
There is not a law on registries. These have been enacted at the local level, and I do not believe it conflicts with state law.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I would just add that, I mean, one of the reasons listed in the ordinance is that it will provide benefits for people that register. That conflicts with the state law in terms of us as a city, as an employer, being able to provide benefits to our employees who would be registered. Well, that's the conflict that I'm referring to.
So the way I read it is that it may provide benefits, not that it will. This registry has no guarantee. It just is stating that for situations where an agency, an organization, a business, in dealing with their employees or their customers, has an opportunity to extend benefits to another person, that this registry may assist with that action. But not that it must or it shall or will. It's just that it may. It's going to vary from health club to health club, from insurance company to insurance company, from employer to employer. So I guess that's the way I read it. But is that correct, Mr. Rosso?
Mayor, members of the council, yes, that is correct. The staff memorandum that accompanies the proposed ordinance contains the language of benefits, and that it may assist people in receiving benefits such as, and then the language that is there, bereavement leave, insurance benefits, club memberships, health club, community center, family leave. That is part of the staff memo, and identifying things that may benefit people. It's not a requirement of the city or any business entity to provide those benefits. So I did say at the last meeting we're not able to provide insurance benefits to domestic partners. I do not see this ordinance in violation of that law, and I do not read this language as saying that we shall provide those benefits. It can't say that, it doesn't say that, and it's not part of the ordinance.
Councilmember Case.
Well, I think all of us up here do understand the political environment that we're discussing this in. I don't think this ordinance, though, in any way is about licensing. It's not about authorizing. It's not about sanctioning. I think it's simply about availing to some of our residents an opportunity. So at the end of the day, for me, it's about personal freedom and family values and civil rights. So I do continue to give my support as I did at the last meeting.
Okay. Councilmember Nelson.
I agree. I haven't changed my mind. I think that this registry is irrelevant as to whether the state law goes up or down in November. It would exist before, it exists afterwards. I don't believe that it makes a statement one way or another in favor of any state law or potential state law. It certainly doesn't grant any privileges of marriage to any people who are on this registry. In fact, I'm not sure that it really grants them a great deal at all, but if it will be helpful, I don't see any reason not to do it. But I don't see this as a political statement, merely as a way for people to help exercise their rights under whatever a corporate policy might be or any other group might be, and or else to provide information perhaps for genealogists several generations in the future. There are compelling arguments on both sides, but I do believe that this is something that costs us very little to do, and if it's of help to some of our residents, that's fine.
Councilmember Aho.
Let's just look at, for a second, let's just look at the health club membership, for example, the community center, our community center membership. Are we saying then that we are going to apply the same benefits that we do to married couples to people that have signed up for this registry, this domestic partnership registry? And what about that people, like the example I gave, that people that just are our roommates and share that? Why are we discriminating against them and saying you're not as worthy of receiving the same benefit as a married couple as people that have signed up for a domestic partnership registry? And so I think that kind of a thing is discriminatory against those kinds of people. And also I think it's really one step further in saying that marriage doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter if you've taken the ultimate commitment step to go and actually get married and apply for a license and get married. We're saying it's equally as committed to sign up for a domestic partnership registry, and you should get the same benefits as people that have chosen to get married. And to me, that really undermines the state of marriage and says that being signed up on a domestic partnership registry should afford you the same equal benefits as being married, and that's where I have a real problem with this.
I'll take an opportunity to make a few statements too. So far on this, aside from the people that addressed the council tonight, I received 1 phone call and 3 emails against the issue, 12 emails in favor, and it might not equate with what you all received, because I know that some of the emails look like they were addressed just to me. So even though they came through on my city email, I don't think they went to everybody. It struck me as a really unusual response. I was expecting to hear much more heavily from the people that were opposed to it, because when you've spent years and years up here at the council level, what you find is that you hear from the people that are opposed to things that you do. When you put a road through someplace, you hear from the people that are going to be impacted by it and don't want the road to come. When you're doing a development, you hear about the people that live nearby that don't want the trees taken down, that kind of thing. So I was really anticipating that I would hear a lot from the people opposed to it, and in fact, it didn't exactly go that way. But there were a lot of issues that were brought up in those letters and emails, or the emails that I received for and against. that were real thought-provoking. I spent a lot of time thinking about it. I thought a lot about this whole issue that you brought up, Brad, about benefits. You know, who do you, if you can register a domestic partner and get benefits, then where do you stop? And, you know, I don't know what the history is of extending benefits to families. I mean, I would suspect that the reason that I get benefits on my husband's work benefit package is because years ago, when the situation was that it was men that were working at jobs and the women who were staying home, that it was a way to cover the whole family. Well, now you've got two working couples that are both eligible for benefits from their employers, but they're also people within their companies that are married to people who don't work that get benefits for their spouse. I don't know if I'm explaining that clearly, but it's nothing is really fair there. So I don't know where it came from, but I know what you're talking about. It was something that I thought about quite a bit too. I'd just like to say that to me we're not talking about marriage here. We're not talking about licensing. We're not talking about monitoring people. I received some comments about how we should be working on other things, not something like this that affects so few people. Well, we deal with things that affect a small number of people all the time. We deal with things that affect everybody in Eden Prairie, and we sometimes deal with things that affect 2 or 3 people. So it's not unusual for us to deal with things that affect a few number of people. Also, we are not neglecting the other things we're supposed to be working on. We're still paying attention to the roads and public safety and park and rec. So it's not like we're neglecting things by even looking at this issue that the Human Rights and Diversity Commission brought to us. I've heard comments that it's part of a liberal gay agenda and that this is just the tip of the iceberg. And, you know, I don't know. Maybe it is, but does that mean that I don't take any action on something that seems to be an issue that fits succinctly within our manifesto statement because of what might happen in the future? I don't know. When we were looking at the possibility of doing a smoking ordinance in 2002, I just looked at it as a health issue. We're dealing with smoking within the workplace and restaurants, et cetera, in Eden Prairie. I didn't look at, am I going to vote against this? Because what if they end up outlawing tobacco, and do I think that's appropriate? I was just looking at a health issue dealing with people in Eden Prairie, and I think that all we can do with an issue like this is look at what is on our plate now and vote what we feel is the right thing to do in this situation. I've heard comments that it's not a city responsibility. Marriages, divorces, and deaths are not a city responsibility. That's true. This is not marriage. States have allowed cities to do registries, so it's perfectly within our venue to be able to do something like this. I heard comments about we're not monitoring this, so how do we know if the relationship that's registered is legit? Well, marriages aren't monitored either, and they have legal standing. So nobody is monitoring a domestic partnership, nor are they monitoring a marriage. So that argument didn't resonate with me. After hearing comments from the people that I've heard comments from, I really feel that the temperament of the community is to allow registry, and that the majority don't have a fear of what this might mean, that it is simply a registry. I had one letter writer who has a mother, a 76-year-old mother who lives with a gentleman and have been committed to each other for years but have chosen not to marry. Do we have people like this in our city? Yes. Do we have any problem with having people like that in our city? I don't think we do. We want people like that in our city. I heard from an Iraq war vet who's living with a same-sex partner. These young men and women who have fought for the freedom of our country and other countries, do we want these people in our city? Yes. Do we need these people in our city? I think we do. I attended over half a dozen weddings this summer, and with the exception of maybe one, I can tell you that all of those couples were living with each other prior to their marriage, some for as long as a year or two. Could they have benefited from a domestic partnership agreement prior to their wedding? Yes, they possibly could have. I don't know if it would have gained them any benefits. It may have, but those are 6 couples that ultimately got married, and for all we know are happily married as I was. Or am. I shouldn't say was. I hope my husband isn't listening.
Jeff,
But at the end of the day, when I think about the impact that this would have on me and on others like me, I just have to say that I don't think there will be any impact. This domestic partnership registry will do nothing to impact or lessen the validity of my marriage. It will ease the way for some others, the elderly, heterosexual couples, the gay couples, the young engaged couples that are not yet married, the Iraq vets, and others who are contributing members of our community. And so I respect the opinions of those who spoke against the ordinance, but I just really am feeling that this is the right thing to do. So is there a motion? Or are there any other comments? Okay, is there a motion?
I'll move it. I move to approve the second reading of an ordinance amending City Code Chapter 5 relating to adoption of a domestic partnership registry and adopt resolution approving summary publication.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, and I have some explaining to do when I get home.
Yes, you do.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us to the first of our public hearings, which is Notting Hill.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We have 2 public hearings tonight. The first one is Notting Hill. This is a planned unit development concept review on 8.35 acres, a planned unit development district review with waivers on 8.35 acres, zoning district change from rural to R1 13.5 on 8.35 acres with a preliminary plat as well at 15640 Pioneer Trail. This is basically a 20-lot single-family subdivision near the corner of Pioneer Trail and Eden Prairie Road. The Planning Commission reviewed this project first at their November 14th meeting in 2011 and then at their December 12th, 2011 meeting, and they voted 7-0 to recommend approval of the plan, the current configuration of the plan, which does not have a connection to Coral Lane. We have the project proponent with us from SK Partners as well, and thought before we open the public hearing if they could provide a quick overview of their project for the council as they did the Plan Commission.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Todd Simning with SK Partners. Myself and Steve Croyce have been building and developing Eden Prairie and the surrounding suburbs for the last 23 years. This property is the McGraw landscape property right on the corner of Mitchell and Pioneer. It's surrounded mainly by single-family houses on 2 sides, Pioneer Trail on one, and multifamily townhouses on the east side. Originally, we developed a plan which had a connection to Corral Lane, as most of you probably know. One of the things you probably don't know is that it's a pretty tough site to actually develop and engineer. There's 40 foot of fall from the west side to the east side as it kind of comes down Mitchell Road. So it makes it a little difficult because all the streets, basically from Mitchell Road and then off of the west, off of the, I forgot that road, but just off to the west single-family neighborhood there, were set. And so with the city codes as far as grade-wise coming down and coming up from both areas, it made it a little difficult to engineer. So we developed the plan, had a neighborhood meeting, and at the neighborhood meeting didn't really get any negative response from the initial one. So we went to Planning Commission with staff's support with the connection to Corral Lane. And at the Planning Commission meeting, we actually had a fair number of neighbors that didn't want the connection. So between us working with the neighbors and the city, we developed a plan that came up with 2 cul-de-sacs. It works for us. We didn't have a problem whether it connected or not. and I think it works obviously for the people on Corral Lane because they don't have as much traffic coming through. So that's the project, or that's the plan that we came to with Planning Commission for the second time. Other than that, if you guys have general questions for me, I'm happy to answer anything. Otherwise, anything technical, I have Kara Otto from Otto Associates here as our engineer that would be able to answer anything technical. So I'll open it up to that if you guys have anything for me.
I have a question for you, Todd.
Yes.
What steps are going to be taken so that somebody doesn't drive from one cul-de-sac into the other? Because it's just a short distance.
There is, and I think on the revised landscape plan, and Kara, you can help me with this, but we'd actually talked with staff about that to be able to plant some trees, not like low-lying shrubs, and we definitely didn't want any boulders there because once it snowed, people would never see it. They'd probably drive over and have accidents. So we were actually going to do a couple larger trees there and then some maybe some smaller shrubs, but we definitely wanted two, call it pillar statements of trees sitting there so people knew that there wasn't a connection.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Council. Yep.
Regarding that, too, on the topo map here, there's quite a, you're right about the grade, but it almost looks like there's a 4 to 6 foot grade difference even between the two cul-de-sacs. Or did that get mitigated, or are they even at the point that they kind of touch?
Now you're over my head. Now you're going technical on me, so.
Could you conceivably truly drive it, or is there truly like a 6 foot drop off?
As Todd said, I'm Kara Otto with Otto Associates. They are very close, enough that there could be a connection. There's a slight change, but there is a sidewalk there. So the city did want the ability to be able to use it for emergency, for a fire truck or something. So we didn't want to make it where it couldn't be gone over if necessary in an emergency. So it's still available for access.
Okay. So theoretically, those trees you can kind of get around, hopefully.
Yes, and there were some tall, I believe, tall grasses, and I'm not a landscape architect, but there was things in there, so visually there was height, but a fire truck could still get through.
Okay.
Correct.
Mr. Case.
So along that line, maybe as we talk about it, or staff will talk more, we've read our notes through the month and a half here, and I understand all the issues that came up at planning, and clearly we all understand that people that live on cul-de-sacs don't want them to be connected. And I remember reading about all the drive-through problems or the fears, but in truth, it would be quite circuitous for someone to make that as the shortcut through Mitchell, because you'd have to come way down past it, go right, go way back, skip the closest one to cut in. So I guess could you explain what the reasoning was in the end that it didn't connect?
Really, it came down to neighborhood opposition. We actually had, by staff recommendation, done a traffic study. And the traffic study actually came back very well. There was going to be, an increase in traffic, obviously, off of Corral Lane, I think up to 350 trips a day, from, I believe it was like 60 or 90 existing today, but that's well below the 1,000 trips a day that is seen as something that would have a impact on the surrounding neighborhood. So it actually came back less, but with the neighborhood opposition that we ended up having, we just worked together to try to find a solution that everybody was happy with. And again, it didn't matter to us. We just were just trying to do what everybody wanted us to try to put together.
Could we maybe hear from staff quickly, too, just what the thought was? It really does look like it's 6 1/2 dozen other that it's not really needed, and therefore I'm fine with this. It looks a little goofy, and I don't know that we have this kind of thing around the city much, and so I think the thought would be, why not? Why wouldn't we if it has no impact really in some ways either way? But I certainly understand the residents not wanting it. I'm not trying to throw an apple in the cart here, but go ahead.
And I will say neighborhood opposition did drive some of the decision-making that occurred with this project. Todd was pretty close. The traffic study stated that at the intersection of Cedar Ridge Drive and Corral Lane, today you've got about 95 vehicles a day. with the connection being made, that would increase to 380. Now, traffic theories tell us that once you hit 1,000 vehicles a day, you start impacting the environmental nature of a neighborhood. You start seeing negative impacts on the neighborhood. So we're not to that point. It's still well below 1,000 vehicles, but I think if you ask the residents, they're going to tell you that we are going to see a negative impact. And their main reasons were you've got narrower streets, you have sightline issues, you've got some grade issues, you've got some curves, and when you couple that with the added traffic, they felt that there was going to be problems. And I think we just tried to work together with the neighborhood, with the developer, try to find something that we could all live with. Am I happy with the fact that we have two cul-de-sacs that close to each other? No, I'm not real proud of that, but I think if it makes the neighborhood feel comfortable with the development, if it allows the development to move forward, we are willing to do that in this case.
And the issue would be to cut literally from Mitchell over to Eden Prairie Road. No, is that right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then I guess that works both ways too, though. Would some of those neighbors, if we'd gone out beyond this immediate cul-de-sac area, have wanted this so they also could have a shorter cut into Mitchell?
Yeah, and I think that the people that were in opposition lived along Coral Lane, so they're going to see the traffic back and forth from Eden Prairie to Mitchell and vice versa.
Any other comments from council or questions? Councilmember Wickstrom.
Yes, I have a comment, and the proximity to the airport, well, it's very close, as we all know. And I think all of us have been on this council long enough to know that we often see people who live close to the airport come into the council chambers not very happy when they hear noise and when there are run-ups. And so I am concerned about that, and I know that there's a letter from MAC in there, but could you just address what you plan to do to mitigate this proximity in terms of
that's a tough question, because it's whether it's Pioneer Trail, whether it's the airport, whatever it is. I mean, to be able to mitigate anything is very difficult, especially when it's over air. Pioneer Trail, if you look at our landscape plan, we have a lot of landscaping all the way around the property to give us a buffer. Most of the property, there's only 2 houses at the end of the cul-de-sac that abuts Pioneer Trail, closest to the airport. Otherwise, everything else comes towards the east, and I think that at least helps mitigate a little bit that there's not a lot of houses at that end of the cul-de-sac. But truly, beyond being able to just adhere to MAC's plans to make the houses a little bit quieter, it's awfully difficult to be able to take away air traffic. I know people that live off a Hilltop Road, and you wake up in the morning or at night or whatever, and you hear airplanes, and that's just a given. And I think people understand that. Same as buying on Pioneer Trail. They do come in. Well, I was going to say they do come in and complain because everybody's going to do it. But even off of Palmetto right there, or Hilltop, or the townhouses on Banyan, we're probably doing a little bit more in today's building codes than what they did before. So, on minimum, at least it's better built housing.
And how do you plan to communicate to future buyers that there is this airport? I mean, what do you plan to do?
Interesting question, but I would throw that back into nothing more than what we typically have done. Airports over there, people always ask questions about it. We built many houses off of the Starring Lake area, and in other areas around there, and have dealt with that for a long time. If anything, just answering questions for people because they always bring it up is the important thing, and not saying, oh, no, there's no air traffic. It's right there's airport. You're going to have it 24 hours a day, and there's Learjets that come in and out, and That's what it is. I mean, even when we were at the Heritage Building, and I lived over there, so jets flew right over top of my house, and it just was what it was at 5 o'clock in the morning, and you got the kids sleeping. So,
Mr. Jeremiah, I think, has a comment on this.
Mayor and council members, I just wanted to clarify that staff is requiring a disclosure statement to all future residents. That would be part of the development agreement, as well as adherence to Metropolitan Council's builder guide, which requires the interior noise reduction to 45 dBA. So those would be addressed in the development agreement, and they would be required to disclose that specifically to the residents, as well as make sure that those noise reduction factors are in place.
Because officials from MAC come and say, why did you allow building so close? So we have to figure out every way to communicate, to mitigate. Otherwise, it's
we say
difficult.
buy the land then.
Yeah, exactly. Buy the land.
There's a problem, buy the land.
But Mr. Jeremiah, what you talked about that's in the developers agreement, is that addressing this letter from MAC? Because the MAC letter sounds like it's kind of almost a form letter to addressing anything that happens nearby the airports. But is this kind of an effect notification to us about this issue, and then we in turn have to do notification to the builder to be diligent, and then the builder is supposed to communicate to the property owner?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right.
I just didn't know about the disclosure statement. Staff didn't actually state that, so...
Do you want to change your mind about the building?
No, gosh, no.
Good.
And we got the report, but we didn't get the full report. But that's all right.
Okay. Councilmember Case.
Well, along the lines that Councilmember Wickstrom's concerned about future, these residents actually coming in and future complaints down the road, none of us will be here. But I guess I'm concerned about the potential gas station that's kitty-cornered, which will be out of our control if indeed the gas station gets built. Because that will, I don't know about lighting. Future councils can work their hardest to control downward lighting, whatever, but still it's going to be an impact. So I'm just looking at your tree planting guide here on page, whatever the last page, and I'm not sure I'm reading all the trees right, but it seems like more evergreens on the Grace Church southwest corner rather than the potential gas station southeast corner. And I'm just wondering if it wouldn't be smart to do both, but definitely to just pack the trees in on the potential gas station corner. And in fact, there are just a few of those tall trees that look like palm trees now. But I don't know that they're within the, they might be in land that's to be developed, but whatever one could leave, I would think it would help and serve everybody if you could.
And just to clarify, you are referring to the corner of Mitchell and Pioneer? Is that where you're?
Correct.
Right on there. Okay.
And so kitty-cornered is the MAC land that's potentially pre-planned, pre-guided for commercial. And they've talked about the idea of a gas station. And we've agreed that it's really going to be outside of our domain to control what goes in there, except to make sure that it fits within our zoning code. So the idea that that could truly be a gas station is not just fear-mongering, but it's actually a possibility. So I would just say, again, pack in, I mean, it's pretty cool and easy to build up a real wall. In fact, Mr. McGraw did it on his southwest side, and if one could duplicate that fairly quickly, you're looking at 25-year-old growth there. But I mean, nonetheless, there are ways to. I'm just suggesting.
Sure.
I'd like to see. I'm not sure what these little drawings necessarily denote, but it seems like there's not a lot there.
We can certainly look into sort of an evergreen to mix in. One of the things we do need to be a little careful is that's the site. There's sort of a site triangle there that we have to be a little bit careful not to. That's a pretty major intersection. So I'd hate to.
There's a lot of room between that house. You've purposely put that room in there, though.
So maybe we can intersperse, a little bit of those in there and be able to provide more buffer.
The word intersperse makes me nervous too. I really believe. No, I really, truly. I mean, if we're going to get future complaints, this council, not us, but the council itself. That's likely going to happen at that corner. And not only that house, but everyone up and down that cul-de-sac potentially would view this this gas station. And I would say you've got a lot of room in the yard there. I understand the sight lines from the road. That seems to be easy to fix. Just move them closer to the house. I would think this person would much prefer slight loss of yard to not seeing a gas station.
Sure. Yep. As long as the sight lines, and the city staff's okay with that, we can put it further back if you're not meaning just right up.
Could that be a direction that we could also give staff to really work at that?
Okay. Anything else? Councilmember Nelson.
Yeah. No, I was just going to sort of second that. I'd almost like to make a requirement that there be, some kind of evergreen, all season coverage on that corner heavier than what the plans currently show, and that would obviously have to be put together through the development. But I assume we could make that a requirement of approval, and instead of strongly suggesting, which allows you to say that, well, maybe not, I would rather have something that says, to do this, you must.
I agree.
Mr. Rosso.
Just to connect the conversation with the discussions we had with the MAC almost a year ago, we entered into a memorandum of understanding with the Metropolitan Airports Commission regarding the development of their commercial property that's not zone commercial, and it set out a structure and a basis by which some of that property could be rezoned, and we actually identified the zoning that would be in place if the council held the hearings and actually did the rezoning. We didn't commit to the rezoning, but we laid out the structure. And so the parcel that you're talking about as the gas station was one of those commercial parcels that MAC is interested in developing, and is one of the more likely parcels to be developed than any of the others. So, the memorandum of understanding is a public document that the developer may wish to see, because that, in my latest conversations with MAC about several weeks ago, that it was taking a long time for them to come back to the council with the actual request for rezoning. They acknowledged that they're studying which ones they really want to do, but this was identified as one that they would most likely bring back. I can't tell you when they will, but they will most likely bring that back.
So what you say supports what our concerns are?
Yes, I wanted to emphasize that it's not just something out there in Neverland. It is something that the council has actually had discussions with MAC about, and we have a memorandum of understanding that was passed about how that rezoning would take place.
Okay. Ms. Jeremiah, you had something to add to that?
Your Honor, council members, I just wanted to point out that there are transplanted evergreens shown along Mitchell Close and going close to the corner. And then there are new spruce trees also planted along the corner. But there are some gaps where there's some maples shown. And I think that your direction is well taken, and we will take a very close look at kind of the sight lines from all of the houses to that corner that could be a gas station. I also wanted to remind you that we changed our gas station ordinance so that if they're next to or across the street from residential, they have to put the quiet side of the gas station along that street or closest to the residential, so that the pumps and all would actually be set back. Still, there would be a lot of activity with traffic in and out and everything else, so I still think it would be a benefit to do that screening. There would be signage, et cetera, that the residents would potentially be seeing. But we did put greater protections in place as well.
And there are just, it's kind of funny because the key codes are a little bit different. But there are 7 evergreens kind of compiled in that corner right now. They just don't look like they're evergreens, but if you actually read the key code, they're actually evergreens that are planted there, and we don't have any issue planting a few more either. You're probably not going to get, you're probably not going to get 7 more in there, but you could easily get 3 to 5 trees in there to make up some density.
All right, Councilmember Wickstrom.
I have just an easy one.
Yes.
What is the price point on the
House and lot together, we're thinking that we're going to be in that 575 to 6.25, maybe 650 range, somewhere right around there.
Okay.
Market's come down enough, so.
All right. Thank you. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone from the audience that wants to, that wants to address the council on this? Okay, the hands went up simultaneously, so you're closest. Why don't you come up first, and the gentleman in red second. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and the council.
Yeah, and please state your name and your address.
Richard Smith on Palmetto Drive, about halfway down the block. I did not, at the last hearing, we did not see the actual tree planting guidelines. But from what I recall, we were told, and we live in the middle of the block, and Mr. McGraw kindly planted trees in the back of our house to where they were nicely spaced, and they're fairly close to the current property lines. And if I recall correctly, you had about a 10 to 12 foot setback from the property line you were talking about before you put a berm up or a wall up that dropped down to the house. That's well within the distance for those trees that are sitting there right now, including their roots, to leave them. Now, you don't need to dig them up. They're mature. They provide additional blockage for us. Why risk them dying and dig them up when you've got probably another 5 more feet before you're going to drop the wall? It provides the residents there more protection from seeing our houses and a more isolated impact, a nicer backyard, and does the same for the current residents. That's my only real concern. The issue on Corral Lane was safety. I was at that meeting. That was the primary, and I agreed. If you drive through there at night, there are no street lights, icy winter, not a good thing. And that's the only thing I wanted to say about that. I really do believe it's doable if the developer's willing. And I don't see a need to spend the money to take the trees out when there may be a few that are too far in, but I've measured the ones behind our house and our neighbors' houses, and they're close enough to where they could be left if someone chose to do so, in my opinion.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, and I'd also like to say, on the gas station side, that's the first I've heard of that. We kind of always knew it could be. Plant trees on that side, too.
Yeah.
Not just the other side. Yeah. That's another way to solve it. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, the gentleman in red. Thank you.
Hello, Ken Fricky from 15610 Corral Lane. The issue of the emergency vehicles having connection between the two cul-de-sacs, I didn't hear much of a resolution on that, and I'm just wondering what that would look like. And as far as wannabe cops and teenagers, like when I was, the shortest distance 2 points is a straight line. What will that look like so emergency vehicles could get through but other vehicles couldn't? Okay. And then my other question for the developer would be, to what extent would Corral Lane be used as a construction entry during the development of the project? Or is there another primary
Good questions. Okay.
entrance?
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can sit down, Todd. Do you want to address that, or Ms. Otto?
Want to do the first one first?
Sure.
In reference to the landscaping, the gentleman's correct in that there is a retaining wall because of the large amount of fall on this project. We actually have very large walls, and we've been able to reduce those. However, we've talked with both a landscaper, he's been on site, he's looked at the trees. We also have our landscape architect, and they did not feel that those trees would live with the proximity of what we would be cutting in for a wall. And they are nice trees, and therefore we would like to be able to transplant the ones that we can. And so we are trying to save what we can by moving them to another place and then heavily landscaping. If you do look at the landscape plan, you'll see there's a heavy amount of landscaping along that side. And that's just as much for the existing residents as the new residents that come in. They too want to have that heavily landscaped. So we felt that by trying to transplant those trees instead of just cutting them down or cutting their roots, and then the developer is gone, and all of a sudden there's dead trees there with an open landscape. That wasn't a good solution. So we were going by what two of our consultants had suggested to do. As far as the connection point, there is evergreens on either side of the sort of what Todd was talking about as pillars. And then in the middle, there is several, I think there's like 62, they're large perennial grass type plantings, so that there's, a car isn't able to go through. It's not expected that this is something that is going to be used, but there was the comment that they don't want a wall or something. Grade-wise, it wouldn't be bad to have that, but that really isn't in the city's best interest to not allow that to go through. Corral Lane really does need that in an emergency, and I think that is something I really would suggest you not change. Then the construction entrance.
Yes.
That was the third point. There would be really no reason to use Corral Lane. It's not an easy place to get. It's for construction equipment. If there was any vehicle traffic, it would be an inspector coming down and parking their car or something. But with the two major roads, it would make no sense to use Corral Lane.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, you may come up. Thank you.
Joanne Holmquist, 8905 Cove Point Road. I just wanted to comment that we have been in communication with Todd from the Sandy Point Homeowners Association, because apparently our retaining wall is on part of the property, the McGraw property. We've not yet come to an agreement on how we're going to handle that, but they're working very cooperatively either to deed the property to us or to get easements on it. We thought we had it resolved, but we didn't quite finish it up before today.
Okay. Thank you for that update. Yes, Todd.
I wanted to just talk about Corral Lane and construction entrance. Primarily, we'll be entering off of Mitchell Road, but Corral Lane, we're actually redoing that whole cul-de-sac anyway, so there's going to be a fair amount of, when we get going on there, Ken, a fair amount of construction because I think it's the water, or is it the sewer that's coming? Water and sewer is actually being connected at that cul-de-sac. So we're going to basically be tearing up that entire temporary cul-de-sac and then actually rebuilding all of that. So there will be a fair amount of construction in front of Ken's house for a little bit of time, but primarily the construction entrance would come off of Mitchell. Okay. And then the easement agreements, I was communicating with Randy. One of them is pretty easy. With the between the city and the Sandy Point Association, because we need a easement just to connect to the storm sewer that is on Mitchell Road. And then in regards to the other one with the retaining wall, we probably won't. I shouldn't say probably. We won't deed the property because we need it for square footage for the lot, but they don't have insurance on the for the association, so we're basically. We don't get insured. Nobody gets insured if they're in there building the wall and the wall falls down, I guess. So we'll just have to give in on that because there isn't much you can do with association that doesn't have insurance. So it should be pretty easy.
Okay. All right. Any other public comment? If not, is there a motion to close the public hearing and proceed?
I move to close the public hearing and adopt the resolution for plan unit development concept review on 9.87 acres and approve first reading the ordinance for plan unit development district review with waivers and zoning district change from rural to R1-13.5 on 9.87 acres and adopt the resolution for preliminary plat on 9.87 acres into 20 lots. And direct staff to prepare a development agreement incorporating staff and commission recommendations and council conditions.
Do we want to be specific about those council requirements?
I'm seeing a nod from Janet.
Oh, you've got the message. She's got it. Okay. All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion, Mr. Case?
Yeah. I understand that Janet, you get it, so that's good. But I just want to be really clear about the idea of it, because I heard a couple other little things that were not as clear to me as what I think we want it to be. You and I, through the years, ever since the Tree Preservation Task Force in '95, we talked about this concept of tree mass and this visual blockage. And I see sometimes developers doing nice little trees that look good for whatever, and I don't think that's what I mean. I don't think that's what you mean. I mean to have it visually blocked. And it may take, I'm okay with the idea that it takes 5 years to get there, but not 20. You know, and actually you could maybe even immediately block it, depending on how you place trees and how many. Because I think there's really going to be a concern with the gas station there, with this corner, and I agree with the neighbor back on Palmetto, I think, that area, that the staff needs to really sit down and think about what this gas station's impact would be on this new development. I feel like the townhome development has already dealt a lot with it. I mean, they've, I think, preempted what might be coming in expectation. But I just really want to make sure that our council direction, so many times we drive by projects after we think we direct, and it's like, no, that's not what we wanted. And I just want to make sure that the direction is very clear. If that's okay with everybody else sitting up here.
Yeah, I would go even farther to say that even if this means more expensive trees, you know, to begin with, you're not talking about 5-foot trees, you're talking about 8, 10-foot evergreen trees that will grow taller, not just evergreen bushes or something, you know, that it's meant instead of a fence.
Okay. All right. Understood? Okay, all in favor of the motion?
Aye. May I make a comment about,
yes,
just to make certain Janet and I are on the same page?
Yes, certainly.
If I might.
Yeah.
Again, don't have any issue with the planting even bigger trees. We just want to make certain that it falls within our requirements for landscaping and not something like overly above. We might take maybe make a couple trees smaller in one area and move bigger ones to another area, because there's so many caliper inches and everything that we have to put in there that I don't want the direction to be all of a sudden there's $25,000 worth of trees that we got to plant over and above what our requirement is. And so I just wanted to make certain Janet and I were on the same page, as well as council, if that's okay.
Are we asking more than is possible, Janet, or do you feel good about?
I can't say tonight that it won't wind up costing him $20,000 extra when we look at each house and trying to visually block it within 5 years, like I'm hearing the council state. I can say that where the requirements or the landscaping wouldn't benefit blocking the view of a future gas station, that we would definitely give them a break and either, allow them to eliminate the trees there or go smaller. But I can't say that it would be a wash from a...
Yeah, and I'm not looking for... I was just using just a hypothetical number. I just want to make certain that your direction and our thought when we're working with staff is the same, so that when we do get here, everybody's happy when the development's there. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. The next item is Duck Lake Vista, the second edition. Mr. Getchell.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I got ahead of myself. This one is on Eden Prairie Road. I think I incorrectly stated the earlier project was on Eden Prairie Road, and we don't have any plans for any development at Pioneer Trail and Eden Prairie Road. But in this case, this is a development concept review on 1.15 acres, planned unit development district review, a zoning district amendment to R113.5, and a preliminary plat at 7,000 Eden Prairie Road. And this is basically a subdivision of one lot into two lots off of Eden Prairie Road and north of the community center and high school. In this case, there's one home on the one lot, and the existing home would remain, and this would allow the homeowner to actually construct another home on another lot that would be created as well. And there is a waiver in here, and the waiver is for the shared driveway, and that's mainly due to the county requiring not having another access off of Eden Prairie Road. The Plan Commission voted 7-0 recommending approval of this project at their December 12th 2011 meeting. And I'm not sure, I'm going to guess we have the project proponent over there on the far left in case the council has any questions.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Nelson.
I just want to know if there will be some kind of a development agreement about this shared driveway for, who maintains it, who replaces it at some point down the line. Will there be that kind of a written agreement that both property owners will understand and be enforceable over the long period of time?
Ms. Jeremiah, can you address that?
Councilmember Nelson, we did require a cross-access agreement. We could make that part of the agreement, that there's also a maintenance and replacement agreement. I don't think that's been specifically mentioned at this point, so, all right. Rick is telling me it is specifically mentioned, so I will take his word.
Yeah, no, I would say that, both properties have changed hands 10 years down the road, and the driveway is in ill repair, and they're both saying, it's yours. That doesn't make for a good situation.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone from the audience that wants to address the council on this subdivision?
Seeing none, I would move to close the public hearing and adopt the resolution for planned unit development concept review on 1.15 acres and approve first reading of the ordinance for planned unit development district review and zoning district amendment within the R1 13.5 zoning district on 1.15 acres and adopt the resolution for a preliminary plat on 1.15 acres into 2 lots and direct staff to prepare a development agreement incorporating staff and commission recommendations and council conditions.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes. Payment of claims, is there a motion for approval?
Move approval?
Second.
Roll call, or any items to question? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Aho.
Aye.
Councilmember Butcher-Wickstrom.
Aye.
Councilmember Case.
Aye.
Councilmember Nelson.
Aye.
Mayor Terrell-Lukens.
Aye. Next, we have a report of the Community Development Director on a Homeowners Association Improvement Grant Program. Ms. Jeremiah.
Your Honor and council members, this is one additional way of ensuring that our housing stock is maintained in good condition and in conformance with code. And we do have a number of townhome associations who are struggling with maintenance needs and improvements. And we do have, as you may remember, a homeowners improvement, an HIA as we call it, that would allow us to special assess properties for improvements. But we have found that some of the townhome associations have a number of lower income residents who would have difficulty actually paying back those special assessments. So this is another means of kind of getting at this issue. And this would be called our Homeowners Association Improvement Grant Program. And it would be a matching grant up to $50,000 in homeowners associations where the residents meet certain income requirements. And 95% of the residents would have to be at or below the 100% median income for the metro area, which is approximately $64,000 for a family of 4. And the funds would be used to help actually rehab and improve the property's deferred maintenance needs, also energy efficiency improvements, accessibility issues, and other code improvements. And the funding source that we would utilize for this is remaining funds from the decertification of a TIF district that is expiring this year, and there's about $160,000 in that fund. And if we don't use it, it would actually go back to the county, but we do feel that that we have a need for that money. And in order to utilize it, the plan for the use of those funds would have to be in place by the end of this year. And what we would intend to do is create basically a list of existing programs as well as this program that the funds could potentially be used for. And there would be an application process that is outlined in the program, so it would be a competitive type of a process. And we would advertise it, so the homeowners associations were already aware of some that have needs of this type. And they would have to meet certain requirements. For example, the homeowners association would have to be in good standing as a Minnesota corporation, and that would actually be a pass or fail type of situation. That's a minor modification to the score report that you're seeing here. And others would create points that would give them a better chance of accessing those funds if we do find that there are requests for more than the $160,000. For example, we would give greater points to homeowners associations where the homeowners are current on their mortgages and where they're more owner-occupied units, and also where the matching fund is greater. In other words, the homeowners association is matching more than 25%, 50%, or 75%, they would get additional score. One other thing that I wanted to note with regard to the program information is that we would be making a minor modification regarding the smoke detector section. When you come in for building permits, we do check that you're in compliance with the smoke and CO detectors, and we want to revise the language slightly to just reference according to current code requirements rather than the specific requirements that are in place today, because they do change from time to time. Otherwise, that's the general gist of the idea of this program, and I'll certainly take any questions that you may have.
Ms. Jeremiah, one of the things that you talked about was where the money came from, the $160,000 from the decertification of District 10. But it's my understanding that those dollars can only be used for housing programs. We can't just take that money, put it in the general fund, and reduce the tax burden to residents. So it has to be used for housing. But my question is related to the statement that a plan for the use of the funds must be in place by the end of 2012, or the funds will be returned to Hennepin County. By plan, do they mean the city has developed this program that's going to use and distribute these funds, or are they saying all of those funds need to be identified in terms of what specific group is going to be using them by the end of 2012?
Your Honor, the answer is the former. We would have to have a plan that we would utilize it, for example, the Hague program, but my recommendation is that we wouldn't limit ourselves to the Hague program, but we would also identify other programs that are in place that meet the requirements, such as our first-time home buyers program, our rehab loan program, et cetera. Okay. In that way, we wouldn't, tie ourselves down if in case we don't get enough applicants to spend the money on this Hague program, for example, or they're not income eligible, et cetera, that we would have more flexibility to spend it in other ways. But we would not need to spend the funds by the end of the year, just have the program in place, and then we would have some latitude to spend it over time.
Okay. Councilmember Nelson.
Yeah, I have a question. I understand that there's this amount of money for this program. The question is when that amount of money is spent, does the program cease? Or is this going to be something that they'll come back to later saying we've spent all the money, there's still a need, now we need to put more money into this program? How are we approaching this? As it's a one-time, money's gone, program goes goodbye, or?
Your Honor and Councilmember Nelson, we can talk about this more when we talk about the strategic plan for housing and economic development later this spring with regard to your priorities for funding different programs. But we could potentially allocate other CDBG funds to this program in the future and, basically look at the demand for our different programs and prioritize where we want to spend available funding. So I don't see this as necessarily going away. There will also be other TIF district decertifications in the future that might have some remnant funds that we could also utilize for this program. But I think that that's part of a broader discussion and part of the reason that we want to bring the strategic plan for housing and economic development back to you to talk about those types of priorities and where you want to spend dollars in the future. The reason that we're kind of ahead of that process in bringing this to you tonight is because we know that there are some needs out there. We feel that the other programs are adequately funded for 2012, and we would prefer to get this out and start to advertise it and not miss a construction season, basically, for some of these homeowners associations who have needs.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Rosso.
I just want to add a little bit to what Ms. Jeremiah said and emphasize that what you would be approving tonight is the overview and goals document, the application itself, the scoring document. Those are administrative items that staff really needs the flexibility to tweak and work with as they work with the program. You will, in any event, always you retain the authority to award the grants, and so whether the application is tweaked because we have to change some language or the scoring is a little different, all those applications will come before you for final approval.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, Council?
I would move to approve the Homeowners Association Improvement Grant Program, which provides matching funds to homeowners associations for eligible structural improvements.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Is there any other business to bring before the Council? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Meeting adjourned.